Time once again to talk NFL playoff race with a look at the NFC heading into week 9. As usual, the calculations will come from the Playoff Computer app. If you take fantasy football way too seriously and want to know exactly how things look in your 17 leagues, check it out on the Play Store. It has all sorts of geeky stuff, including the NFL-style paths to clinch, so you know what matters before making that big trade. And fair warning, this is a mathematical analysis with no bias for or against teams that are supposed to be good or bad. The only thing that truly matters is actual results so far, with tiebreaker status and the nuances of the remaining schedule telling us where things stand. With that being said, the team in the NFC with the highest statistical chance is
We're number
the
one.
high-flying Detroit Lions. Now 6-1 and on a 5-game winning streak. Their biggest worry is, of course, playing in the NFC North, which means they have 3 other teams ready to knock them off their perch at any moment. As of right now, their mathematical odds to take the division are around 44%, and to make the playoffs are about 84%. Their projected wins target to take the division is 11-12, 12 being the likely safe mark, or to just get a wild card. Looks like 10 wins should do it. So to make the playoffs, they should just need to find 4 more wins, which is good. But because like much of the NFC North, where there have been only been a few intra-division games, their rest of schedule is looking pretty brutal. They only have 1 game left against a team that is currently below 500. Checking out some of their tiebreaker stats, just 1 division win over the Vikings, so not much settled there. They have, however, completed all but 1 of their non-division conference matches and currently have a 5-1 conference record, with all those games being against teams that are at least in the fringes of the playoff picture. So even if they were to stumble out of the division title, they have wins against the Rams, Cardinals, Seahawks, and Cowboys that might come into play, with just a loss to the Buccaneers. This week, big showdown for the NFC North as they head across Lake Michigan to Green Bay. Number 2 in the NFC are the Washington Miracles, Commanders. Hail Mary win over the Bears puts them at 6-2 and keeps them just in front of the Eagles for the division. About 50-50 bets to win the division and greater than 3 out of 4 to make the playoffs. Guesstimate win target for them to take the division is 10 wins at a minimum, with 12 being fairly safe. Looking at their head-to-head results so far, there are just a few that are looking like have much chance of being relevant. This win over the Bears, of course, and earlier win over the 4-4 Cardinals, and a loss to the Buccaneers. They complete the set against the Giants this week, which, though the possible sweep might not matter with the Giants not really in it, it would, of course, be another division and conference win. After that, a few big games: Steelers, Eagles, and Cowboys. The Atlanta Falcons come in at number 3. They beat the Buccaneers for the 2nd time this season, which gives them the series sweep and thus effectively makes their 1-game division lead in the standings in reality a 2-game lead. With wins over the Panthers and Saints already, as well as, and thus a 4-0 division record, while all the other teams in the division have 2 losses. They already cannot lose a head-to-head or division record tiebreaker to anybody else in the NFC South. 5-1 in the conference is also a big asset, but with a 72% chance to take the division, they really might not have to worry too much about wildcard tiebreaker details. In fact, there is really very little chances that they could falter out of the division lead but somehow be good enough for a wild card. Host the Cowboys this week with a chance to put the Saints out of their misery next week. As of now, their win target to take the NFC South is 8-10. The Green Bay Packers sit in the 4th spot on the list thanks to a 4-game winning streak as they are doling out punishment to a host of AFC teams so far, the latest being Jacksonville. Of course, the battle at home against the Lions this week for control of the NFC North. As of now, they have about a 1-4 odds to take the division and 3-4 to make the playoffs. Like the rest of the division, with much of their remaining schedule being against their bandmates, their rest of schedule is a bit tough. A word of caution is that as of this moment, they do have the worst conference record in the NFC North as well as technically the worst division record. Something to keep in mind if they find themselves in the scrum later. Do have a loss against the Eagles that could be relevant, but wins against the Rams and Cardinals. The Philadelphia Eagles are next up as they are riding a 3-game streak of the good kind, beating the Bengals last week, hanging within striking distance of the Commanders. They are around 38% to win the division and 2 out of 3 chances to make the postseason. Just 1 game played in the division so far. A few head-to-head results from conference play that might be important later. Win against the Packers, but losses against the Falcons and Buccaneers. They get the Jaguars at home this week before a couple of big division games against the Cowboys and Commanders. Should just need a 5-5 finish to be in postseason football. The Vikings are down to number 6 after dropping their 2nd in a row, the latest to the Rams. That puts them in 3rd place in the division, less than 1-5 to take the North now, and slightly under 2-3 to make the playoffs. As they are knee-deep in the wildcard race for the moment, the wins against the Packers and 49ers are looking relevant. They have a chance to get back on track for the next few. Colts at home this week, then Jaguars and Titans after that. Those two are their only opponents for the rest of the year that are currently below 500. Staying in the Norris, the Chicago Bears are in the 7th slot. Taunting the Commanders as time ran out did not pay off, and at 4-3 they are firmly entrenched in last place in the division, 44% to make the playoffs. Interestingly, they have yet to play a division game and still a couple weeks away from the first one of those. 2-1 in conference play with a victory over the Rams that might come into use. Played the equally hot and cold Cardinals in Arizona this week, then the Patriots before finally getting to those division battles. Still looking at the toughest remaining schedule in the NFC. The Patriots game next week, their only opponent currently under 500. The Arizona Cardinals have clawed back up to 500 and actually find themselves in first place in the jumble of mediocrity that is the NFC West. 4-4 along with much of the division, but with the advantage of a 2-0 division record with wins over the Rams and 49ers. Nobody in the division has a good conference record, which might be a problem for whomever doesn't win the division. The Cardinals have played a pretty tough schedule so far, and their reward is having only 2 teams for the rest of the year that are currently above 500. The Bears this week being one of them. Big game for both as loser falls to the fringes of the wildcard race. As for the NFC West, the Cardinals' win target is 9-10. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers fall to number 9 after dropping 2 in a row. Division odds of just 22% thanks to losing the season series against the Falcons. 36% to make the playoffs. Now, if they can stay in the wild card race, at least they do have some potentially huge head-to-head wins against the Commanders, Lions, and Eagles. The bad news is to stay in the forefront of the wild card race, they will need to beat the undefeated Chiefs this week. But the good news is that after that, just one other opponent currently above 500. A very winnable remaining schedule, including 2 against the Panthers, Giants, and Raiders. The San Francisco 49ers may have salvaged their season with the win over the Cowboys, staying in both the race for the NFC West as well as the wild card. Go to their bye with a 1-4 shot of taking the division and a bit better than 1-3 for a playoff berth. Just 1-2 in the division might be a problem later on, as is their current 2-3 conference record. Once they return from vacay, not the easiest stretch to try and make a run. Buccaneers, Seahawks, Packers, Bills, Bears, Rams. 6 games in a row of 0 of those teams currently below 500. The Seattle Seahawks find themselves in the NFC West scrum as well. 0-1 in the division and 1-3 in conference play puts their odds at 35% for the playoffs with a 1-4 chance of the division. Big game with the Rams this week before their bye. Then they continue the division party with the 49ers and Cardinals. The Los Angeles Rams have won 2 in a row to return from the grave, now on the fringes of the wildcard race, as well as being knee-deep in the who knows what will happen NFC West. 2-4 in conference play so far is not their friend, but the remaining schedule might be. Seahawks this week for a loser to occupy last place in the NFC West. Then the 2-win Dolphins and Patriots. Jerry Jones Billions have bought the Dallas Cowboys a 3-4 record with just 11% odds to win the NFC East and under 1-4 to make the playoffs. The only NFC team they have beat this year is the Giants. And with likely needing to go 7-3 the rest of the way against 6 opponents currently above 500, including their next 4 of Falcons, Eagles, Texans, and Commanders, the oven heat is set to broil. We now get to the also ran segment of the program. The Saints have dropped 6 straight and dropped any postseason aspirations out the window. A mere 4% mathematical chance to win the NFC South and only 6% to make the playoffs. Would likely need to go 8-1 the rest of the way. Not the worst schedule in the world to do that. Panthers and Browns are 2 of their next 3, but likely too late for heroics. In fact, they could, in theory, win out and not make the playoffs. The Giants couldn't kick their way past the Steelers and dropped to 2-6. Now a mere fraction of hope to win the division and 25-1 against making the playoffs. Would likely need 12 wins to take the NFC East, and the math says they cannot achieve that. Only hope is to somehow finish 8-1 for a wild card. Also another team that no longer controls their own destiny. The Carolina Panthers bring up the rear. Losers of 5 straight, approaching 0 in mathematical chances to make the playoffs. Would likely need to win out, likely not happening. But Saints and Giants before their bye to maybe get to 3-7. And as with the Saints and Giants, the Panthers no longer control their own destiny. That's it for now in the NFC. Enjoy your day.